Welcome to episode 3 of volume 4, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do this. As I said before, I'm not going to be super detailed about this, but I am going to have some good detail in it. We're going to focus on Blake, and we're going to do all of Blake. What happened with Blake was actually very interesting because we got a chance to see the situation of how long it takes to reach Nazri, which is the island for the Faunus. The Faunus live all around Remnant, but the original numbers come from Nazri. And as she's traveling there, and it looks like it's going to be several weeks to maybe a couple of months, think about a freighter coming from Hong Kong to New York. That's about a 3-month ride, almost 2 to 3 months. And the situation with the captain kind of makes some sense because he's got a long trip with maybe a few people on board, and when he sees someone by themselves, as he said in this situation, the ones that are by themselves have the best and most interesting stories because it's a long ride. But he also noticed something. Because of what happened to Beacon and what happened to Vale, you got a very jumpy Blake. She was ready to pull a blade out on him the minute that he spoke to her. And 2 kids ran past her. She was almost ready to jump out of her freaking skin. She was that paranoid and nervous. Which is understandable because of what happened at the attack of Beacon. I mean, who wouldn't be jumpy? So after she talks to the captain, we saw 2 things. One, a cloaked figure that we now know is Sun. And then we see a sea grim, which I think is better to call it a Chinese serpent. Because it looked just like a Chinese dragon, which I really thought was incredibly beautiful. That was so cool how they made it look. And going by the story, a little after that little conversation with the captain in the middle of the night, well, reaching night, you got finally that Grim attacking and Sun revealing himself. And Blake wasn't happy about it. She didn't want anyone to follow her. We already know that's pretty much because of Adam. But she really was surprised to see that Sun was willing to track her down and stay with her. That's the reason why she acted totally tsundere. She didn't want to even talk with him. She didn't care about him. She said, why don't you fight, when they were basically working together. And in the end, next to the captain helping them, they managed to defeat the Grim. I got to say this about the captain. The captain knew what he was talking about. He understood how to get the ship's weapons online. He knew what would be the best type of tactic that would be needed to take care of a Grim. It's probably that he used to be a huntsman himself, and then he became a captain after that, because he knew how to think on his feet. And after the situation with the Grim was over, we finally heard the reason why Sun tracked her down, and that was mainly because after everyone got hurt, after Beacon was destroyed, after Vale was destroyed, he believed the reason she ran off and made sure everyone was safe was to go off and face the White Fang. So that's the reason why he went and tracked her down. But she had a different reason. She decided that all this was too much for her and she just wanted to go home. Back to Nazri. I find this a very good thing because they basically, well, Adam, along with all her fellow Faunus, destroyed a place that she actually cared for. She loved Beacon. She did. She loved Yang. You can ship them all you want. I still feel that Yang's mine. This is my wife. I'm sorry. This is my wife for all the things I've gone through, and I will compare some of what she's gone through, what I've gone through. Yang's my wife. She's my wifey. She's mine. But she lost so much. Her best friend, Yang, the person she really does love, just as much as Weiss loves RWBY and RWBY loves Weiss, they're best friends. Yang and Blake are best friends. They love each other. And seeing that her best friend lost her arm and now she can't be with her because she know Adam will kill her, it makes sense why she did that. A lot of stress is on her back. She didn't know what to do, so she's going to go home to her family. So now let's move on to Salem, to Cinder, and the question of who the hell is that little floating guy. This is at the very end of the video. We thought this was settled at the very opening of episode 1, when she said that Osmond is dead to Watts. But it looks like she's not totally convinced. So when that little figure, which I think is her servant, the one who controls everything in the background for her, it makes actually a great amount of sense. There's no way that Salem can control everything at once. She needs a servant to do her bidding and tell the Grimm and everybody else what to do. So as she's talking to Cinder, did you kill Ozpin? And this is the most interesting thing. She did not believe Cinder was telling the truth. So she made it very clear. Tell me. She was going to call over Emerald, who was there along with Mercury. She said, no, I want to hear you say it. And you could tell that when it comes to Cinder, she still can't talk properly. The damage to her face, to her larynx, everything is still pretty bad. And she says, basically in a very weak, frail, scratchy voice, yes. That's when she tells her servant, that'll call the big round ball, or maybe Jarvis. That sounds better. The Jarvis equivalent of RWBY, reinforce beacon. Make sure they're reinforced. The relic has to be there. Now the question is, what is the relic? I kind of have a theory about that after I do Yang, if I don't forget. I'm sorry, I did on the last, I think on the last video I might have forgotten something. But I will talk about the relic in a moment. Now we talk about Yang. This hurt me. A lot of what Yang's going through, I myself have gone through. Because, if you don't know me, I got injured on my job about almost 7 years ago. I already had a pre-existing condition with a disease in my hip. And finding out that I have serious situations with it where I can't do heavy work, I gave information to my job that I can't do heavy lifting. But unfortunately, for me, as a 1199 worker, I had to do it. And I went and did a job that I shouldn't have done, and I got hurt. And since then, I've not worked. I have gone through a lot of stress and depression. And this is what I see for Yang. This is the reason why Yang means the most to me personally. I'm not saying you guys don't love her, but for me personally, a lot of what Yang represents is also what is in myself. Yang, as I said in the last video, is a very caring person who may be a thrill seeker, who cares about doing the right thing as a huntress, but she's the type of person who loves the people she cares for and will do whatever they can, wherever she can for them. That's my mentality. And when she lost the ability to use her right arm, it is exactly what happened to me personally when I could not use my left leg. My left leg is completely non-functional right now. As I can stand, I can't use it properly, so I cannot work. So when I see Yang sitting in front of a TV, it reminds me of myself. And when I see Yang looking through the channel, seeing that one, Beacon has a failsafe for the wireless system, so everyone still has television and communications. 2, they've been trying to contact Atlas to see if they can get the CCT tower back online, and they have not gotten anywhere. 3, the Vale Council has decided to do a no-fly zone. Basically, unless you're trying to rescue people out of Vale to take them somewhere else, you cannot fly there. That shows you how bad the paranoia has become. How bad the stress has become because they can't tell anybody, because they can't communicate out. Even if they could, no one's going to believe them. And then they're already a bit paranoid because they don't know what's going to happen, because it could be robbers, bandits, the Grimm. So they're very close, tight-knit. They don't know what to do. And then when they finally figured out that they believed that it was the White Fang who caused this problem, not directly connected to Yang and the tournament, which that made me so happy. I'm glad Yang is not blamed for the tournament problem. They blame Adam Torres. Adam, we finally got his last name. He's supposed to be a bull. Kind of makes some sense because of the way his hair has been set up. It looks like horns. Hard to tell that it looks like horns. It kind of looks like his hair, but it looks like horns. It makes perfect sense when it comes to Adam. And you saw that Yang was really interested about that. But when it comes down to it, Yang is still broken up inside, and it's like she's going through shell shock of what happened to her. Particularly when her dad came home, she looked at him nostalgic, saying, "Hi, Dad." He came in, said, "I got something for you," lays a new arm down on a table for her to open up and look at, and says, "I was going to get you an arm. I was going to do whatever it took to get you an arm. I was going to try and pull some springs." But guess what? I didn't need to. Ironwood already had something set up for you and said, basically, you did a great job during the tournament. Well, not the tournament. I think during the battle. I think he might have realized, along with the battle, that she was not responsible. That's just my point of view. My guess is he's talking about the battle, but I think he's talking about the tournament and the battle. That she didn't cause this mess. You should be proud of yourself. You didn't do anything wrong. And when she looks at the arm, she doesn't care. She pretty much says, I don't feel well, I want to go to my room, and she does. And after she goes to the room, she starts cleaning up, she starts going around, taking out the mail, sweeping the floor. She seems to have decided to adjust to the situation. It has been several months since she lost the arm, so she has learned to adjust to it. But you can still see that she still gets panic attacks the minute that a glass hit the ground. Because she didn't notice what she was doing. She freaked out. She was almost at the point of panic and collapsing, hyperventilating. That shows you she has a lot of recovery to do. And Tai Long wants so bad to help his daughter. But he can't. This is something she's going to have to do for herself. I understand that better than anybody else. I am stuck like this for the rest of my life. Being disabled. I am disabled. I have disability. I can't do anything under the normal circumstances. I don't financially have the way to get out of the problem, and physically I can't get out of the problem. So I have to deal with the problem on my own, and one of the ways is doing videos like this. And for Yang, this is what she's going to have to do for herself. This is the reason why she's my wife. But now for the final thing. My theory on the Relic. What could it be? When you think about what's going on in Beacon, Vale, Minstrel, Vacuole, and thinking about Nazari, thinking about Atlas, there has to be something more to what's going on. I said it in my previous video when it came to Pyrrha, and I still stand by my video. If you look at the last episode of Volume 3, Pyrrha got shot in the chest, and you saw her showing dust. When you saw this last episode, you saw a guy dead, no dust particles, the guy is just dead on the ground. No, he doesn't disintegrate. So I believe that dust is an integral part of the symbiosis of the huntsmen and huntresses who use it, and the Grimm, who I believe are part of it. This relic could be connected to how the dust interacts with anyone who heavily interacts with dust. And what's going on with the Grimm. I believe that this is the reason why she wants it. Salem wants that relic badly, because I believe that relic connects the human beings who are interacting with dust compared to the Grimm, who are basically dust and who are manipulated by the dust, and whoever can control the dust. I believe that if it's not Salem, it's some creature similar to Mr. Jarvis of RWBY, the Jarvis equivalent of RWBY. There's something there controlling the Grimm. There's something there controlling how they exist. And when they're destroyed, they turn into dust particles and disappear. I believe that relic is a part of it. But this is just my point of view. You guys tell me below, and I hope you enjoy this RWBY Volume 4, Episode 3. Please give me a comment below.